Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to the third real episode of Building on a Budget. No worries, this is not April Fool's anymore. This is a real episode where we're going to take a look at a deck that does not cost a whole lot, just as an entry point for new competitive players, so they can get, a cheap way to enter the Pokemon TCG competitively. Now this deck is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say, I guess it's more on the rogue side. It's not a tier 1 deck. You know, the first couple decks we did definitely are competitive decks. This one has some trouble sometimes in competitive play, but it also has some good matchups as well. So I figured this would be another cool starting point. And this is also a very fun deck, so I figured I'd go ahead and cover this one. So it's going to revolve around two main Pokemon here. The first one is going to be Shedinja. Now, it has this ability, Empty Shell. If this Pokemon is knocked out, your opponent can't take any prize cards for it. That's pretty cool. If it gets knocked out, your opponent just doesn't get a prize card. So this is a good way to deny your opponent prizes, and of course this extends the game for a long time. But it doesn't really attack for much, so we're going to have to run Ninjask with it. Now, Ninjask has a nice attack, Night Slash. For 2 energy does 60, and then you switch it with one of your bench Pokemon. So obviously the idea here is we use Night Slash, and then we don't switch into that one. We switch into Shedinja, which has Empty Shell. So every turn we're just kind of pushing up Shedinja. Sure, our opponent can knock it out, but they don't get any prizes for it. Ninjask also has an awesome ability, Cast Off Shell. When you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can search for a Shedinja and put it right on your bench. So you don't even have to evolve into Shedinja all the time. You can just grab it and put it right on your bench. Very cool. Since Ninjask is going to be moving to the bench all the time, we only need 2 of these, but 4 Shedinja since we're going to be sacrificing it quite a bit. Of course, we have 4 Nincada as well. Very low hit point, 40 hit point Pokemon. We don't want to attack with this very much, but in desperate times we can dig. If heads, you prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to Nincada on your opponent's next turn. So this could be a stall tactic in very, very desperate situations. So these Pokemon are definitely the core of the deck. We do have a couple more supporting Pokemon that we'll look at. These aren't as important, but they are in the deck as well, since we don't really want to run 4 basics. Having some other Pokemon will be nice. The first one here is Sigilyph. It has the Safeguard ability, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon, by Pokemon EX. So we can switch into this sometimes if we aren't able to get a Shedinja in play. This can definitely buy some time against those quick, hard-hitting Pokemon EX that so many people play. This basically just to buy time. You know, we're probably not going to attack with it very often, but the ability is the important part. Then we have Mr. Mime. Again, ability is really the only purpose we have him. Bench Barrier. Prevents all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks. If you'll notice, both Ninjask and Shedinja have 60 hit points. So things that do bench damage hurt this quite a bit. For example, things like Darkrai EX's Night Spear does 30 to a bench Pokemon, and that's just 2 hits to knock out this poor guy. So we need Mr. Mime to block the bench damage. There's also things like Landorus EX has Hammerhead, Kyurem has Frost Spear, and even Genesect EX has Megalo Cannon. All of which Mr. Mime will block. So one Mr. Mime is a very good addition to the deck. And then we have an unusual Pokemon in here, a Meloetta. Now why would this be in here? Well, we kind of just needed one more Pokemon to round out the deck. And Psychic is actually a decent attack against Pokemon that are weak to Psychic. It only costs 1 energy, does 10 plus 20 more damage, does 10 plus 20 more for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon. So sometimes you can actually get a big hit on some things that have a lot of energy on them. People still use cards like Mewtwo EX and Deoxys EX. Anything weak to Psychic, Meloetta will hit for a lot of damage. Even if it's not weak to Psychic, if it has a lot of energy, just 1 energy for Psychic can do a lot of damage. So it's just a nice little Pokemon we can run, since we are running Psychic Energy. Speaking of that, we do run kind of a low amount of energy, just 6 Grass Energy and then 2 Psychic Energy. But that's because we're running 4 Super Rod. Since Shedinja is always getting knocked out pretty much every turn, it's a 60 hit point Pokemon, we need 4 Super Rod that shuffles in 3 of any Pokemon or basic energy from the discard pile back into your deck. This allows you to recover your Pokemon over and over and over, and we can also get energy back if need be as well. So Super Rod definitely makes this deck work. Without Super Rod, we are basically dead in this deck. It just doesn't work. So that's probably the most important trainer in the deck. Other stuff we're going to look at here, we have 2 Rescue Scarf. If basically you attach this to your Pokemon, and if it's knocked out by damage from an attack, you get to return all the Pokemon back into your hand. This obviously works very well with Shedinja, as you can just get it back into your hand, and again keep them going over and over and over. We could run more of these. I just have 2 in here, since we do have the 4 Super Rod. 2 seems like enough, but maybe you might want to run more if you feel like it. Now, these other items are really, really important too. 2 Muscle Band. Now, this allows your attacks to do plus 20 damage. So now, instead of just doing 60 with Night Slash, we're doing 80. This can be very important to get 1-hit knockouts on very small Pokemon or 2-hit knockouts on some of the bigger ones. We also have Silver Bangle, same concept, against those Pokemon EX. Now Night Slash will do 90 damage, which means we're going to knock out pretty much every EX in 2 hits. That's very important. Every attack matters. Every turn matters. So, if we can knock something out in 2 hits instead of 3, that is a very big difference. And that's why we have Silver Bangle in this deck as well. Now again, Ninjask does not do a whole lot of damage, so we have some more little damage boosters in here as well. 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. Basically, your opponent is poisoned when you play this card, and then if you flip heads, they're also put to sleep. Now this can do even more damage with Verbank City Gym. Puts 2 more damage counters on poisoned Pokemon between turns. So now that Hypnotoxic Laser can do an extra 30 damage for your attacks, basically. You don't even have to attack. It can just be an extra 30 out of nowhere. And this allows you to do nice things sometimes. We need all the extra damage we can get, and Laser Verbank is the easiest way to do that. We have 4 Level Ball, just searches for Pokemon with 90 hit points or less. Put it into your hand. This is awesome because every Pokemon has 90 hit points or less. Pretty sweet. So basically this is search for a Pokemon. And that's pretty awesome. You can't get much better than that. Now we do have Dowsing Machine, our A-Spec card. Discard 2 cards. It allows us to get back a trainer card from the discard pile. Can recover some of these lovely cards. We have 1 Tool Scrapper. Now Pokemon tools are a pretty big deal, especially against the card Garbodor, which has Garbotoxin, which shuts off all abilities, but only when it has a Pokemon tool attached. So we play a Tool Scrapper because Garbodor is a massive pain in the butt for this deck. It shuts off our ability Empty Shell, so then they can get prizes for Shedinja, and we need to stop that. Now, Tool Scrapper alone won't do it, because they'll just play a tool right before they knock out Shedinja, and we don't really get anywhere. They still get to take prizes, and a lot of Garbodor decks run Sableye as well to recover those Pokemon tools. So we have to go a different route. We're going to play 2 Pokemon Catcher. If you flip a coin, if heads, switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. So basically we're going to take that Garbodor off the bench, bring it active, and knock it out with a Ninjask. That's going to be our strategy for taking down Garbodor. Because honestly, the Tool Scrapper, it's nice, but it doesn't really work in this kind of a deck. Our last item is a Professor's Letter. Just allows you to search for 2 basic energy cards. Pretty good card, pretty versatile. Just gets you energy. And energy is good because we need energy to attack. For our supporter cards, we have the standard 4N. Each player shuffles in and then draws a card for each remaining prize card. This can be good early in the game to draw 6. And then as the game progresses, it's a good disruption card. For Professor Sycamore, discard your hand and draw 7. Pretty simple. Shauna, shuffle your hand in and draw 5. We have 3 of these, just another standard draw card. And then 3 Colress as well. Shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw a card for each benched Pokemon. So this is kind of the opposite of N, where it's very bad early in the game and very strong as the game progresses in terms of drawing yourself cards. So those are the supporters, and that is the deck. Now, if you want to build this deck, how much will it cost? That's the big question here. I added all of it up. I looked on online card shops right now, and it looks like this would cost you probably between $60 and $70. Now, that may sound like a lot for this kind of a deck, but let me break it down for you. If you want to buy the Pokemon for this deck, it'll cost you about $7. Yes, $7 for your entire Pokemon line. So that's about as cheap as it gets. Now, the trainers are the pricey part. These things cost a lot since every deck pretty much needs them, and a lot of decks need 4 of them. They just become expensive. So the $60 portion comes in these trainer cards. Notably, Level Ball, N, Hypnotoxic Laser, Burbank City Gym, and Muscle Band are probably the most expensive out of all of these, and Dowsing Machine, of course, as well, since it is an A-spec card. So there's no real way to avoid paying for trainer cards if you're building a deck. It's pretty annoying that that's the most costly part, but it is nice that you can kind of transfer the expensive cards from deck to deck if you want to build a new one. So that's what it's going to cost you. Of course, I have a video. We have a game of this in action. So we'll take a look at the mighty Shedinja Ninjask deck and see how it works. So we have a mulligan, no basic Pokemon. We have a second mulligan, no basic Pokemon. Third mulligan, fourth mulligan. Oh boy. Alright, so we after 4 hands of no basic Pokemon, my opponent will go first and start with 4 extra cards. That's not good. But hey, we'll see what we can do. We're going to start off with an Nincada and hope for the best. Going up against Little G 2012, and we see a Sableye and a Darkrai. Uh-oh. We don't usually like seeing these decks. Nowadays, most of them end up running the big, bad, purple trash bag we don't like to see, and there it is. There is a Trubbish. Uh-oh. So this means our opponent is definitely going to be running Garbodor, which, like I mentioned earlier, Garbotoxin shuts off our abilities, and that's bad for a whole lot of reasons. Number 1, well, we give up a prize every time Shedinja gets knocked out. Number 2, Mr. Mime's bench barrier gets knocked out, so now Darkrai can Night Spirit to the bench, and we can't block it. And let's see. Number 3, we can't use Ninjask Cast-Off Shell either, which is very, very annoying. So, keeping all this stuff in mind, Garbodor is a big, big problem. I'm going to go with a Shauna there since I would have had to discard a lot of painful stuff. And we didn't get a very great hand. We're missing a supporter card for next turn. It's kind of the downfall of Shauna. Draws 5. Sometimes 5 isn't enough. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet. Maybe we want to play some different supporters, but a solid draw 5 is not horrible, but sometimes it's just not going to get you what you need. So I'm going to just level ball for Mr. Mime, saying, you know what, we're going to need this at some point if we ever want to win. And I know Garbodor shuts it off, but that bench barrier is so important. We need to do something about it. So we see a Dark Patch. Uh-oh. Darkrai is getting all powered up. If we get hit by a turn 2 Night Spear, this could be pretty much over. And oh no, there is a Dowsing Machine. It goes for an Ultra Ball, though. My opponent certainly could have gotten a Night Spear right there. But it looks like favoring the Ultra Balls well to get out Garbodor. I guess that makes sense. Boy, that's tough. Turn 2 Garbodor and then a Darkrai basically fully powered. You know, next turn I'm certainly getting Night Speared, and then we can't block the bench damage with Mr. Mime. Boy, this is going to be bad. This is about as bad of a matchup as you can get for this deck. The Garbotoxin shutting off basically your entire deck, and then Night Spear hitting your bench with your 60 hit point Pokemon, this is just very bad. And we got to try to find a way to do something. And on top of it all, we have an unplayable hand. So this is not good by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to slap a Rescue Scarf on the active since I fully expect to get knocked out. We see a laser, and looks like a tool goes on to the Yveltal. And oh my goodness, my opponent plays an N. Wow, we are saved. Alright, so we got a fresh hand of 6 cards. Maybe my opponent was feeling pretty nice there. Whatever the case is, we're going to have a game now at least, where I'm not just getting rolled over. And we see another Junk Hunt. My opponent is pretty hesitant to go on the aggressive for some reason. And this is definitely favoring our side, since, we would have been in some trouble with a quick Night Sphere and a Garbodor. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the laser and then a Muscle Band onto the Ninjask. And alright, we got a Grass Energy and then a Level Ball as well. So we can Level Ball for a Shedinja. This way we can evolve the active, which is asleep. And it'll get free retreat. So that's pretty nice. We can just attach the grass to the Ninjask, then retreat and Night Slash, and switch into the Shedinja. It will give up a prize, but it does have Rescue Scarf, so at least we'll be able to get it back. Right now, our concern is trying to find a way to get rid of that Garbodor. Oh, man. But we might as well take a prize there, if we can just take it. Alright, so we did get a Pokemon catcher out of the prize. This is exactly what we need. We can catcher that Garbodor, bring it out, and then try to knock it out with Night Slash. If we have the Muscle Band already. If we get a Hypnotoxic Laser and a Verbank City Gym, we can wipe that thing off the board. Even if we catcher it active, it does have a Dark Claw on it. And it has a 3 retreat cost, so there won't be any way to really retreat it. My opponent would need a card like Switch or Escape Rope, something like that to get out of the active spot. So we definitely need to catcher that thing out. Otherwise, well, this is almost game over. Darkrai plus Garbodor is as bad of a combination as you can see. The Night Sphere knocks out the active, hits a bench Pokemon for 30, takes a prize on Shedinja. It does not get much worse than that. So this is going to be painful. We do see the Night Spear. Poor Mr. Mime, his barrier is down. Apparently, garbage shuts down the barrier for some reason, but oh well. But yeah, we do see the Night Spear. The 30 damage goes on to Ninjask, and this is kind of a big turn. We really, really need to catcher that Garbodor right now. And oh no, Tails. Uh-oh. Well, we do have the Dowsing Machine, so we can recover that catcher and try to use it again. But if we get Tails on this one, boy, that's going to be some bad news. We'll get rid of the Silver Bangle, and I guess we can afford to get rid of a Super Rod since we play 4 of those. And okay, here we go. Pokemon catcher, we need a heads, and alright, we got it. So we're going to drag that Garbodor into the active spot. Throw down another Shedinja with a Rescue Scarf, and then Shauna for 5. We got a Grass Energy. I guess we can just put that on the Nincada. That works, I suppose. The laser is big as well. No, we didn't get the Verbank City Gym. That would have been awesome, but we did not. So we're going to have to just Night Slash for 80. Switch into the Shedinja. Actually, I might not even switch. We're just going to leave it active, since if my opponent does get a switch, he can then Night Spear, and I don't want 2 things to get knocked out, so we're just going to leave the thing with 30 HP left in the active spot. And oh no, we actually do see an Escape Rope, so my opponent did have a way out of it. This is really, really bad. Now I have to decide what to sacrifice, and I think Mr. Mime is the best thing to sacrifice here. You might think Shedinja because it has Rescue Scarf on it, but actually, I want to save that Shedinja because I want to use Curse Drop to finish off that Garbodor next turn. So I also don't want to lose another Nincada. We need another Ninjask soon. So Mr. Mime is the only real logical choice to sacrifice here, and there's a big 2-prize turn. It's going to knock out both Mr. Mime and Ninjask. That hurts a lot. And I guess that's pretty brutal. But the good news is we can finish off that Garbodor. And once we get our abilities back, all of a sudden we can kind of slow down our opponent's prize-taking capability. So we're going to go ahead and Super Rod, throw the Mr. Mime back in the deck along with Ninjask and probably Nincada as well. We need to constantly get these Pokemon back into the deck. Mr. Mime hopefully doesn't get knocked out again, but the other two, the Nincada and its evolutions, we constantly need to be putting that back in the deck. There we see the Mr. Mime come back into play. That's very big to block the Night Spear bench damage. And there we go. Curse Drop. We're going to put 1 damage counter on the Garbodor. And the others, I don't really know. We could put 1 on Sableye, I guess, just to make it so we can always knock that out at some point. And then I guess 10 on Yveltal EX as well, since that way a Night Slash with the Muscle Band can knock it out in 2 hits, 80 and 80. I don't know how relevant that'll be, but oh well. I could have just put 2 on Darkrai as well, but I'm thinking we can just laser it once and then Night Slash it twice, and then we can get a knockout anyway. So I don't know. We'll keep our options open. We do see a Keldeo EX come down on the bench with a Float Stone. Maybe that'll come into play at some point. But maybe that'll actually open it up for us for a Pokemon catcher later. We can knock that out. It is weak to grass. So that could be kind of an opening. But I don't know. All sorts of stuff going on here. This is a crazy game. We got rid of the Garbodor, and that's our biggest concern. Now we're going to have to try to find some way to capitalize. So there is the Nincada. And let's see. We're going to evolve into Shedinja, since we can just retreat for free or leave it active if we do miss our Ninjask this turn. Going to go ahead and attach a second Grass Energy to the Nincada. And let's see, we can Tool Scrapper. My opponent actually discarded the second Trubbish very early on in the game, so we didn't have to worry about Garbodor at all, unless we see a Super Rod. So I'm just going to play the Tool Scrapper right now. Discard a couple tools. Getting rid of the Float Stone on Keldeo could be a big deal. And it's also interesting to note there are 10 energy in play for my opponent. 10! That's 3 on 3 different Pokemon and then 1 on a Sableye, so they might not even have much energy left. So Keldeo might be useless now that the Float Stone is gone. But we're going to get a Night Slash, switch into the Shedinja, and we're rolling now, alright? You know, we can't take prizes very quickly, but we got our strategy going. The Garbodor is gone. We can keep Night Slashing into Shedinja, allowing it to not give up a prize card. Mr. Mime blocking the bench once again. You know, things are good. Things are looking up. And we do get a Super Rod here. Going to go ahead and shuffle in the Nincada, Shedinja, and a Psychic Energy. Seems good. And then we can just attach a Grass to probably the bench Nincada. I guess that works. N for 4. Putting my opponent at 3 cards. And then we get another Nincada down. So this is really good. Again, I just sent out Ninjask again and keep doing our stuff. We missed a laser there. That's big. We could have gotten a knockout with the Hypnotoxic laser right there. But now that Darkrai survives with 20 HP, not the biggest deal since we can later on finish it off with a Curse Drop, but still pretty darn annoying. So we'll go ahead and promote Ninjask this turn. Go ahead and Super Rod in these 3. I think that might be the last Super Rod at this point. And then we'll Chorus for a nice 8 cards. Now that actually wasn't as good as it seems. Our hand is actually pretty bad after that. So I'm going to get a Shedinja at least. That was the big thing. Got the Shedinja. And we'll put a Psychic on Meloetta, just in case. There's no real other place to put the energy right now. And we might need to Psychic at some point, who knows. And then we'll Laser, Night Slash into Shedinja. And that'll be the turn. So next turn, we can definitely Night Slash for the knockout on this Darkrai. That other Darkrai is in some trouble. We do see Hypnotoxic Laser from my opponent. and Sableye coming out. So it looks like my opponent is kind of saying, you know what, I can't just keep doing this. I need to get back some items to give myself a chance in this game. And it's a really smart move. Not only will the item cards give my opponent, more options in this game, but Sableye is also a non-EX Pokemon, so that's going to work out really well. Now I'm going to have to knock out an extra Pokemon. Ideally, I would use Shedinja's Curse Drop right here, but it looks like I have a Sycamore and then the rest of my energy. So if I were to play that Sycamore right here, I would probably lose the game. And losing the game is not a good thing. Winning the game is a good thing. So we're going to just attack this turn. I know my opponent took an escape rope with the Junk Hunt, so I'm definitely going to be giving up a prize this turn. But my opponent still has 3 prizes to go, so I'm not that worried about it. I can afford to give up 1, and then hopefully we get Shedinja going, and that'll be denying prizes the rest of the game. So here, looks like the only choice is to sacrifice our Meloetta. Kind of annoying that we have to lose that energy and the Silver Bangle as well. That could have been a nice attacker at some point, but that was really the only option. I don't want to lose Mr. Mime. That would be very, very bad. And yeah, that's about it. So this turn, let's see. What do I want to do? I think I want to Curse Drop and just finish off that Darkrai back there. We can evolve the other Nincada into a Shedinja. It's pretty silly that we're going to have 2 grass on a Shedinja, but we probably don't even need another Ninjask at this point unless there's a Pokemon catcher that comes out. So what I think I'm going to do here is attach the Psychic to the active, and then we'll Laser. That way if the Yveltal stays active, we can just Night Slash in next turn. But we'll Laser and then Curse Drop, knock out that bench Darkrai, and then put 10 somewhere else. Seems like a fine plan here. So we'll go ahead and play the Hypnotoxic Laser, Poison, the Yveltal EX, and again we're going to put 2 damage counters on that Darkrai EX, finishing it off, and then I guess the other 10 doesn't really matter that much. We can put it on Keldeo EX. That way, if my opponent tries to stall with that for a turn, we would just be able to Night Slash it with a Muscle Band and knock it out. The Muscle Band is already on Ninjask, so this seems like the best way to go. Get our 2 prizes. Got a Catcher and a Sycamore. Those are 2 good prizes. And looks like my opponent's running out of room here. And it couldn't come at a better time because it's just when I'm running out of Shedinja. And here comes the Darkrai, and there's a Night Spear, but that already has 110 damage on it. And that means Ninjask can come out and Night Slash. And boy, what a crazy game this was. We started off really far behind. The Garbodor was out. And we managed to catch it out. And beat one of our worst matchups with this deck. Which just goes to show you this deck can be very, very resilient. Even though it's a lot of just cheap Pokemon. But this deck is a lot of fun to play. It's always going to have really long games though. So be prepared if you're going to use this deck. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. This is Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.